Thank you for watching this year. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, just select subscribe at the bottom of the video screen and then hit the bell in order to receive notifications when new shiurim are uploaded. If anyone would like to sponsor one of the shiurim in memory of someone, or for a refuah shlema for somebody, or for a schuz for someone, please send me a message or email me at stankran@sbcglobal.net. Thank you. All right, now, so the first thing we're going to do is finish up most of the sugya. And now, there is one question left that we're not going to deal with today. We will deal with hopefully next week.
What's the meaning of life?
No. The question is, when the Kfarim are reading early, we're finishing up the sugya now with the Kfarim reading early. That's what we're going to... The question is, when the Kfarim reads early, who reads for them? If somebody in the city is reading for them, they're not mechuyev yet. Just like a person who is obligated to hear it on the 15th can't read it on the 14th because they're not mechuyev yet. So, and a person on the 14th can't go to read it for somebody on the 15th. Similarly, how do the people who are not in the city read it for the Kfarim? And then the other problem is, what do the Kfarim do about the night Megillah? And as they're coming in and they're hearing it in the daytime, what are they doing about the Megillah at night? And third of all, they're coming for the marketplace. What about the women? What about the elderly people that don't come in on Monday and Thursday? What do they do? So that's what we're going to deal with next week. In particular, the shaila of whether the townspeople could read for the Kfarim. And Rashi seems to say they could, because Rashi seems to imply the whole reason behind the takana is because the Kfarim were Amoratzim and they didn't know how to read the Megillah. So they needed a townsperson. Now, the other possibility would be that a townsperson would be dispatched to their city to read for them, but the question is, what good would that help? He's still not mechuyev, the guy that's reading it for them. The Rambam and the majority of the others, which we probably will not talk about, will really just focus on Rashi next week, but the simple pshat is that the Kfarim read it in the Kfar. The Minyan and others, they don't learn like Rashi that they went into the city on Monday and Thursday. They might have gone into the city, but they went to their own shuls also. The problem was that in the Kfarim, they didn't have a minyan every day. They didn't have a daily minyan. But on Monday and Thursday, they made a minyan in the Kfar. And therefore...
Before they went to the big city?
Before they went to the big city. So Monday and Thursday, or it could be it was called Yom HaKnisa because they got together in the shul, in the Kfar. They didn't necessarily have to go into the big city. They got together in the shul in the Kfar, and somebody there read for them. So this way they could have also read it at night, and they could have also read it in the day. But the point was that they only got together on those days. They couldn't do every day get together. And since they anyway were getting together Monday and Thursday, the rabbi said we don't have to give them another day that they have to get, they have to worry about leaving their wherever they were and go into the Kfar's shul, because they'd have to be in the proximity. They might have been in fields that were very far away, etc. So, in other words, according to the Rambam, they actually read it in the Kfar, and they, so a B'nai Kfar read it for the B'nai Kfar, and they were not Amoratzim. It's not because they didn't know how to read. It's because they just couldn't physically get together every day. It was too much.
Daven in a minyan, somebody could read.
Well, right, but if they went into the city, right, but it's not only that. According to others, they couldn't read the Torah either. According to Rashi, they went to the city on Monday and Thursday, or to the Rabbeinu Hananel, they went to hear the Torah reading because they couldn't read it. They were Amoratzim. They didn't read the Torah either in the Kfar. The Kfarim didn't know. They weren't learned. But according to the Rambam, it has nothing to do with their learning ability. They did know. But the difference is that they physically could not go and get together to make a minyan every day, even within the Kfar itself, because they were all spread out. They were like farms and stuff. Yeah.
What happened if someone from the city was traveling and wasn't going to be there?
That's a separate shaila. We're going to see. It's the same shaila of if somebody doesn't live in a Kfar, it would be, that might be a different shaila. But let's say the 14th and the 15th. If you're traveling and you're in one, that's going to be a later discussion in the Gemara. What is it and we'll see in the Rishonim also, does it depend upon where you are on sunrise, let's say the 14th or the 15th? Right. Does it depend on your intent of going back or staying? That's a whole different discussion. Whether the Kfar is a whole different ballgame because it was a special leniency because they were supplying the people So if you just were visiting, I don't think that would make you part of the B'nai Kfar because you weren't necessarily right a resident involved getting that you would be given that leniency. But anyway, we'll see. That is a later sugya. This whole discussion of what defines the person who's considered a ben ir or a ben krach. What is the definition? Now, so that will finish up the sugya. This week, what I want to do is at the end of our Gemara. So our Gemara brought down all the different zmanim. The 11th, 12th, 13th. And then the Gemara said, if you remember, if you look back at the Gemara just quickly, so the Gemara then gave us at the towards the end. So the Gemara says,
I'm sorry, what are we on?
if you look at Daf Bet Amud Aleph, yeah,
Okay.
do a few lines in the Gemara, and then we'll go to those sheets. So the if you look where the lines get bigger.
Okay, we passed this already, right?
Yeah. I'm just reviewing one line here.
Okay.
So the Gemara says where the lines get bigger, the second line. Oh no, I'm sorry. The third line. Here, the fourth line. Okay. Okay. The end of the third line. Amar Reb Yochanan, Zu Divrei Rebbe Akiva. You see it?
Yeah.
All right. At the third line, towards the end of it. Amar Reb Yochanan, Zu Divrei Rebbe Akiva, Stim Ta'ah. This is the opinion of Rebbe Akiva, our Mishnah, who is the author of this Stam Mishnah. Now Rashi says, what does it mean, Stim Ta'ah, that it's a Stam Mishnah, the author of the Stam Mishnah? So Rashi says that the Mishnayos, if you look in the Rashi, in the second column, the Rashi here is 2 columns long. So in the second column, Rashi says, you see it about a third of the way down. Stim Ta'ah. So it said, Harbe Stam Mishnah, Sasam Rebbe. There are a lot of Mishnayos that Rebbe doesn't give you the author. He just tells you a statement, but he doesn't give you the author. Shehein Divrei Rebbe Kiva. Many of them are actually the opinion of Rebbe Kiva. Why? V'yesh Meforshim Stim Ta'ah Kol HaStimin Talmidav Hayu. In other words, any Stam Mishnah, even if it's not Rebbe Kiva, it was certainly one of his Talmidim. Kedisa B'Sanhedrin, Stam Mishnah Rebbe Meir, Stam Tosefta Rebbe Nechemiah, Stam Safra Rebbe Yehuda, V'kulo Stim Ta'ah, I'll leave it to Rebbe Kiva, because they're all students of Rebbe Kiva. So it doesn't matter who they were, the bottom line is, they all reflect the opinion of Rebbe Kiva. So, Akash Be'ein, I Lefarish Kein. Shamatzinu B'kama Makomos B'Shem Rebbe Lozer Rebbe Yosei Stim Ta'ah, Rabbi Menachem Bar Yossi Stim Ta'ah, Lekamen before B'nai Er. So Rashi says that's kind of schwer because later the same Lashon is used as Stam Mishnah in the name of another Tana, and it isn't a Talmud necessarily of Rabbi Kiva. So, and the Ritva points out the same thing. What those Meforshim probably held is that in Hachinami, the Gemara will point out that it's a Stam Mishnah and give you the author. But if they don't, in general, the general thing would be most of them are, Rabbi Kiva. Now, the question is, what is the reason of the Gemara even telling us this? What's the difference? I mean, what's the difference whose opinion it is? But the answer is, what the Gemara is trying to point out, I think the subtext of the Gemara is, that when you read the Mishnah, and you see these are the days that the Megillah is read, Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, your natural conclusion would be, from reading the Mishnah, that that's a halacha, because look at it, it's in the Mishnah. Usually also halacha is kastam Mishnah. So the Gemara now is pointing out, wait a second, this Mishnah isn't Divrei HaKol. This isn't a unanimous opinion. It's a Stam Mishnah that's Rebbe Akiva. It's an opinion of one person. It doesn't mean everybody agrees with the Mishnah. And then it goes on to say, Dedorish man zmanim zmaneim, Aval Chachamim omrem ein kornasoa ela bizmana. But the Chachamim are cholek with the Mishnah, and they hold you could only read the Megillah in its proper time, meaning the 14th and the 15th. So then the Gemara says, Meisvei am Rabbi Yehuda Masah bizman shashanim ketikunam v'yisrael sherulim alad masan. However, that can't be because we have a brisa that says that when do you read it on the earlier? only when the Jews have sovereignty and they're in their own land. But nowadays, hoyel mistaklen ba ain't kornosol bismana. But nowadays, since people, now we'll leave this what mistaklen ba, because that's what we're going to go through in the sheet. Since it is, people look to it, all right, which the simple shot is what Rashi says. People judge when Pesach is going to be by when Purim is. Since we don't have our own land, we don't have the Beis Hamikdash, and we don't have the Sanhedrin, so we have now the calendar instead of the witnesses coming. And what happened is when the witnesses came, they'd be sent out. Everybody would know when Rosh Chodesh is. Now we don't have that, so therefore we have right. We have the calendar, so people know it's 30 days after Purim is Pesach. They'll mistaka, they'll look when Pesach is, from the word listakel, they'll look at Purim and count 30 days. Well, if they read it early and they count 30 days, what happens? What happens is that you'll end up making Pesach early, and you'll end up eating chametz at the end of what you think Pesach is over, and it isn't. So Rabbi Yehuda says, I'll leave it in mind. That's problematic, because if the Chachamim argued with the Mishnah is talking Bisman Hazeh, and the Chachamim are coming and saying, Avol Bisman Hazeh, in other words, you don't read it like that, which means that during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, they did read it earlier. And the first statement was that this is only Rabbi Kiva's opinion, who darshans, zmanim, etc., meaning the other opinion doesn't darshan it and would have never allowed it to have been read earlier, even in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. And here we see that the Chachamim did allow it to be read earlier in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, just not now. So the Ritva and the other Rishonim say this is a third opinion. Who said this? Maybe this. The answer is they don't want to make three opinions. They don't want to make a machlokas if they don't have to. So what they'd rather say is to Yuvta.
This whole book is...
No, but they don't want to create unless they know for sure. In other words, we know Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim argue, but we don't want to make now a third opinion when we don't have any basis for it. So now what they say is better to say to Yuvta the other guy is wrong, and that even though Rabbi Kiva said it, but everybody agrees that Bisman the Beis Hamikdash, it was true. You could read the Megillah earlier. The difference is today. Today one would not be allowed to read the Megillah earlier, and then they go ahead and bring down that opinion that's Rabbi Kiva's Stimtoi. They just mentioned it again, but the Chachamim say, Bisman izah, hoyel mistaklen ba, ein kornosala bismana. So basically, that's how we paskin. We paskin like the Chachamim, that nowadays we can't read the Megillah earlier. Now, later the Gemara says also, they bring down Rabbi Yehuda's Shita, which is on the next Mishnah, and Rabbi Yehuda also gives another a qualification, and that is that even according to the Mishnah, the Stam Mishnah, that the Megillah could be read earlier for the Kfarim, that's only if they actually went to the big cities, or according to the Rambam, got together on Monday and Thursday. So if they didn't anyway get together on Monday and Thursday, then let them do it on Purim. We're not having them, in other words, we're giving them the benefit of the doubt because they're anyway coming together on Monday and Thursday. But if they're not going to do it, and that's in the next Mishnah, that Rabbi Yehuda says, here, Emasai, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Emasai, when does this apply? Meaning that they could read earlier. Makom shenichnasim b'sheni b'chamishi. Avo makom she'ein nechnasim lo b'sheni v'lo b'chamishi ein kornosala bismana. Now, even though the Gemara seems to say it's two different opinions, the Rambam paskins both opinions because they're both right. In other words, it's correct that in the time, in other words, even though Rabbi Yehuda might have been saying it for the time of during the time of the bismanenu, according to the opinion of the Mishnah. In other words, the Mishnah's opinion is you can always read it earlier, whether it's our day and age or not. All right. The Chachamim hold our day and age you can't read it earlier, and that's how we paskin. And Rabbi Yehuda said even according to those who hold nowadays you could read it earlier, that's only if they came to the cities on Monday and Thursday. Now, but today, in other words, if they're not making special minyanim, you couldn't. So we paskin both ways, which means the other thing that they say is that today most people are bekiyim. In other words, most people know how to read. Nowadays, most people in whatever city you're in, there is a shul with a Kriya Satorah. So even if you held like the Mishnah, that it could be read earlier, it wouldn't apply anymore because they're not staying home and only going to shul on Monday and Thursday, at least usually not. The idea is that everybody really is considered a baki today. So but the point is we paskin both ways. We paskin both ways that the Megillah cannot be read earlier in any situation nowadays. We'll see the Shulchan Aruch in a second. That's at least from the Gemara, that it can't be read any earlier nowadays because either A, there's no such thing as Yom HaKnisa anymore. It just doesn't exist. People aren't going to the big city Monday and 30 for din and for whatever. And B, even if they did, it can't do it because since Hoyel Umistaklin, since they look to Purim, whatever that means, we just gave one explanation, therefore we can't read it today. So that's the final halacha. That's basically the sugya. So even though you read in the Mishnah, it can be read earlier, it's not true. Nowadays we're basically left with only those 2 days. Now, if you remember last week, I gave you a little hint, though. There are ways of finagling the Gemara under certain circumstances. Since there was an existing halacha of reading it earlier, when will that come into play? Will that never come into play nowadays? Or are there extenuating circumstances where we can, lean on that halacha? That's what we're going to see momentarily when we do the... Now, look in the Rashi, Aval Bisman Hazeh.
Where are you in the Rashi?
When does the Gemara get into what costumes you can wear?
The Gemara doesn't talk about that.
The dark
Yeah.
type?
Hold on 1 second. Wait 1 second.
Cultural appropriation.
Where is it? Here. The Rashi, Masai, Hekilu, you see what the Rashi, Bisman, Shashanim Kitikunam. All right, Shahashanim Misabros, the Alpi Basin, when the months were, considered like decided, made longer or shorter depending upon the witnesses. V'chadashim Makachim Bebasin, so Shulchan Shluchin, Lahodia Masai, Hukdash Nisan. They would send out shluchim, messengers, to tell them when Rosh Chodesh Nisan was, and they know when to make Pesach. V'yosin moedim alpi shluchim. And the holidays were decided or calculated based on the witnesses, based on the shluchim, the messengers. Ukashruyan al admasan, we are shluchin magian. So they said two things. Our text says that when the shanim were ketikunim, when the years were made according to the court, and when the Jews lived in their own land, which means because if they lived in their own land, the shluchim would get to everybody, at least in Eretz Yisrael by that time. Magian ad Pesach leketz Eretz Yisrael. Avu bizman hazeh shapisku kol elu Yisrael nifradu v'lo yagiu shluchei based in etzlam. So the Jews are all over the place. So even nowadays, even if you had the shluchim, they certainly wouldn't reach everywhere. Of course, now with means of internet and everything, but in the time of the Chazal, so if the Jews aren't on their land, forget it. I'll call Sofa and Lamikra Megillah. People calculate. They look to Mikra Megillah. Yom Yon Yudalad Bi'adar Karina Megillah. So Nishul Li'adar Tesvav Yom. They know 15 days left in Adar and Tesvav Shal Nisan. So Osim Pesach. At the end of the 30 days, they made Pesach. Vim Taktim Kriyaso Yaso a Pesach L'Sof Shloshim. So they would make Pesach at the end of the 30 days. Shal Kriya. V'nimsa Oakland Chametz B'yamim Achronim Shal Pesach. And they'd be eating Chametz on the last days of Pesach. So that's how Rashi learns. Now, a couple of questions is, even if you read the Megillah earlier, but the halacha is the Suda has to be only on the 14th. So why would they not look towards the festivities of Purim? In other words, they're looking at the Kriya. The answer you have to say is because the main thing is the Kriya. The main thing is really the Kriya. What about the cities that are walled? They're reading it on the 16th. Why, if they count 30 days, they'll make Pesach a day later. But the answer is they were really, the ones in the walled cities were considered more sophisticated. They understood, And then, of course, the question is, if it comes out on Shabbos, they're going to read it earlier. And again, the answer is, well, it's only, if it comes out, the whole Klal Yisrael is going to read it earlier. It's not just the B'nai Kfarim that will be reading it earlier, and therefore amongst everybody they're going to understand. But and also you could say it's not so shchiach, etc. So nowadays, of course, Purim doesn't come out. Purim doesn't come out. The way the calendar is set up, Purim anyway doesn't come out on Shabbos. So it's a moot point. It doesn't, won't make a difference. So, but anyway, that's the way Rashi learns. Now you could take a look at these sheets. So, look, there is a different gear. So I want to start with the second one. That's the first one is the Rabbeinu. Well, I guess we could do the Rabbeinu Hananel. The first sheet with Rabbeinu Hananel at the top.
Says sources.
But I'm going to read you the Rif first, number 2.
Listen.
No, the one with the one that says 11.5.18. You see 11.5.18?
Give me a chance. Okay.
No, well, there's another one there if you don't have it.
Okay, 11.5.18.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And this goes from 1 through 11.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right, now, number 2 is the Rif. I'm going to read you the Rif's text. This is how the Rif learns the Gemara. Because everything actually boils down to the text. I don't know if we'll do the Rabbeinu Hananel. You can look at it on your own also. But the Rif says, and it's not the same, it's a little bit different than the Rabbeinu Hananel on the side of the Gemara. This is from the text of Rabbeinu Hananel, from the Ksav Yad, from the,
Manuscript.
huh?
Manuscript.
The manuscripts that were found later, yeah. All right, now the Rif says, so, Marabba bar Barchana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, should be Amar Rabba bar Barchana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, the Aleph got messed up there. Zu divrei Rabbi Kiva stimta, the Dorish man's manim zmaneim. This is quoting our Gemara. Avol chachamim omrim b'zman hazeh, hoyol u'mistaklen ba, ein kornos ola b'zmano. Kolomar, what does this mean? Hoyol v'einehem shal aniyim, since the poor people, in other words, who's looking? We're not talking about the people judging what time Pesach will be. We're talking about the poor people want their Matanas Levyonim. So they gather when they read the Megillah. So since the Aniyim are looking towards Mikra Megillah, so Nosa the Mikra Megillah, Kadeshi Achlukula Mos Purim, in order to get their Purim geld. So Ein Korno, so Elabizmana, you better only read it in the regular day. Now, why? Because, in other words, later they're going to explain, because if you give them the money earlier, now the halach is, if let's say the Megillah was read on the 12th, but the Suda is on the 14th. So if you give the Aniyim the money on the 12th, by the 14th it'll be gone. So therefore, the whole purpose of the Matanas Levyonim is so that they can make Simchas Purim. And if they wait till the 14th, they may not get it because they've gone to shul when everybody's reading the Megillah. Again, like we asked in Rashi, why didn't they go after the Suda? The answer is because the main festivities, the main focus was on Kriyas HaMegillah. So the poor people become despondent. They'll go to shul and nobody will be giving them money. So so therefore, we do the reading the same day that we do the Kriyas HaMegillah, and therefore we don't allow the Kfarim to read earlier, because the Aniyim who will go to the Kfarim for their money will basically lose out. Now, the question is, so what does it have to do with Yisrael, Sharuya, and Al Admasan, that the Jews are in their land, etc.? What does it have to do? So they say that the economy became worse when the Jews went into Galus. So the Aniyim were very desperate. That's why they'd spend the money immediately. If you gave it to them early, once they were in the Galus, they had no money. They were very poor. So the money might be spent earlier than it would have been when the Jews lived in Israel. There wasn't such a tremendous surge of anius, of poverty, and therefore we didn't have to worry about it. All right, but that's the Rif. So the Rif says, Hoyelu Mistaklin, he has the same text as Rashi, but Mistaklin is referring to the Aniyim looking for money for Purim. He says, look at what he says, V'yesh Gorson, some have a different text. They don't say Hoyel u'mistaklin, Hoyel u'mistachnin, from the word sakana, since there's a sakana involved. So, Kolomar, V'osa ha'es, shahayu Yisrael mamidin daitehen. In other words, when the Jews were able to keep their religion as they were in Eretz Yisrael, Vein boili de sakana, and there was no danger if they read it on many, many days. So hayukorno so b'achad asar b'shneim asar b'shlosh asar. Abu b'zman hazeh shemistachnin Yisrael b'daiteyan. The Jews are in sakana for their religious beliefs because there's a tremendous amount of anti-Semitism. Ein korno so el b'zmanim b'zmana shehein barba asar b'chamisha asar b'kein hilchasa. Because if they read it it's reading on the 13th, and some read the 14th, and the 15th, and the 4th, and then the 11th, the 12th. There's so many readings of the Megillah, the Goyim are going to get very suspicious, and they're going to, come down against the Jews. Now, to connect it to Hanukkah, the question is raised, so why do we light the menorah? We light it outside, and we have 8 days. Here you're talking about 4 days. So the answer that's given, I think it's given by the Ran, if I remember correctly, is that the Neros, when they ask us about the Neros, we say the oil lit for 8 days. So what are they going to do? It's a miracle. They ask us about Purim, we slaughtered the Persians and the Goyim, we got rid of them. So, if it's 4 days of that, they're going to come down against the Jews. So therefore, because of religious persecution, we only limit it to the 14th, and that's what it has to do with the Jews being in their own land, and etc. Because it means, in other words, as long as they have autonomy and they don't have to worry about world opinion, then it's fine. They can read the Megillah on these extra days. But since it doesn't exist anymore, we can't. So now we've had 3 opinions of what it means, hoyel umistaknin or umistaklin. Those are the 3 reasons why we no longer read it earlier. Now look at the Rosh. I'll just go through the Rosh quickly. It's very similar. V'ema shitza v'shipsar amar krav lo yavar amar Rabba bar Barchana amar Rabbi Yochanan zu diber Rabbi Kiva stimtai. This again the Gemara abul chachamim omrim b'zman hazeh hoyel umistaklen bo ein kornos ol b'zmana klomer hoyel v'eineihem shal aniyim nosas l'mikra Megillah. The poor people look kedei lachluk lehem mos Purim in order to get the money for Purim b'yom kriyasa leficha ein kornos ol b'zmana. Shem yikru kodem zamana yechalkol lemos purim biyom kriyaso. Because if you were to give them the money on the day you read it, kamril lekamen goven bo biyom umachalik bo biyom umotzian hamos kodem yodaled, they'll end up spending the money before the 14th. Lo yalehem b'may l'smoch b'purim, they won't be able to have simchas purim. V'amrinu lekamen over simcha no noheges ela bismana. The simcha is only in the time of the regular date, which is the 14th. V'hadi amar bisman hazeh, why then does it say in our day and age? If it has to do with the aniyim looking, it could have existed any time. Lefi shemetzuyin rov aniyim, because in others we have a lot of aniyim now. And in other words, they didn't have as many poor people in that time. So the Rosh gives a different reason, not because the poverty is so strong, but actually the number. It's not necessarily the quality of the poverty, the quantity. There's a tremendous poverty now, and therefore we have to worry more about the aniyim nowadays because there's so many of them. Therefore, you have to only do it on the read it on the day that you're having the simcha. V'yesh goris, and there's some that have the girsa gorsim hoyel mistachnen bo kolomer. Bioso as mancha Yisrael yecholin lahami b'dai totseim, when the Jews are able to keep their religion without any fear, they didn't have to worry about danger from the non-Jews. All right, so it's very similar. Basically, he just reiterates what we had seen in the Rif. So those seem to be the 3 major shitas. Now, look at the Rambam. The Rambam says, "B'kriyasa b'yamim." Now, there are 2 different Rambams. One is a Rambam in the Parsha Mishnah, and the other is in the Rambam in the Yad Chazaka 4. So in the Parsha Mishnah, the Rambam says something a little bit different than what he says in the Yad Chazaka. The Rambam says, "V'kriyasa b'yamim shonim," the kriya of the Megillah on these various days, lo haya ela bizman sheyadenu takifa, when we had sovereignty, v'yesh lanu yocholet likov al kiyum hamitzvah b'shleimos, so we could force the kiyum hamitzvahs. In other words, we were able to enforce the mitzvahs. Now, some want to say what the Rambam means, because Rambam usually learns like the Rif. What the Rambam means is, in other words, we didn't have to worry about sakana. We could enforce the mitzvahs and not worry about goyim. That's what some say. We'll see a different shot in a second, but that's what some want to say in the Rambam. Avo bizman hazeh, kolomer mizman shenischaber hatalmud, after the close of the Gemara, ad sheyavo hamashiach b'mheira, ein kornos ola bizmana, v'hu yom arba esra, chamisha esra, etc., etc., etc. Now, the Rambam, if you look at number 6 in the Yad Chazaka, so he says, kfar she'ein nichnasim bo b'sheni b'chamishi, ein kornos ola b'arbasa. That is the next mission I told you, like Rabbi Yehuda. But Medavor Mamorim, Shamagdim and Bekorim B'Yom HaKanisa. When do we apply this din of Yom HaKanisa? Bizman Sheish Lam Yisrael Malchus. When the Jews have Malchus, when they have sovereignty. Abu Bizman Hazeh Ein Kornusol Ela Bizmana Shu Abreser. So, if you learn the Rambam like the Rif, in other words, Malchus means we're in charge of our destiny. We don't have to worry about the goyim. That would be the simple pshat, and we've already seen it in the Rif, and we know the Rambam follows usually the Rif. It was very good, but the Rambam is that the Rambam, and that's probably the pshat of the Rambam in the Yad Chazaka. But the Rambam in the parish, because that's what Malchus means, they have sovereignty. But in the Parish Mishnah, the Rambam really didn't say. The Rambam added that we have the Yocholet Lichof al Kiyum HaMitzvahs, that we can enforce mitzvahs. What does that have to do with, there's a sovereignty that we have, is that we can make people keep them. What does that have to do? So I think it's Kapach, or Kapach, I'm not sure. But some want to say the pshat in the Rambam is, Hoyul Mistaknin, where the mitzvah is Besakana. What do we mean the mitzvah is Sakana? When you have the Sanhedrin, and you've got the Jews in Israel, and you've got a basic, hierarchy, and the Rabbanim are looking out, then they don't mind if they read the 11th, 12th, because it's under the auspices of the Chachamim. But when the Chachamim aren't around, and you're in Gaulis, and this one, so this one says, we should be reading early, we can read early, and this will say, so you have a problem that the mitzvah becomes besakana. It becomes a free-for-all. And that's what the Rambam means. When we're able to enforce the mitzvah and say, no, it'll be read this day, and you'll read it this day, etc., that's fine. But when we don't have the power to enforce a mitzvah, kehilchasa, we have to be worried by giving too much freedom to people. They can be read the 11th, the 12th, the 13th. So one shul will decide we're going to read it early. One shul will say we're not. Then you really will have a gudos agudos. You really have a tremendous chaotic a situation, and the mitzvah becomes besakana, that the people won't be mekayim the mitzvah. They won't be mekayim the mitzvah correctly. So that's how he wants to learn the Rambam, and then you could even actually say that's what it means when Yisrael has Malchus, although the Yisrael having Malchus is more indicative of what the Rip says, that the sakana is on the Jewish people versus the non-Jews. But anyway, those are the various opinions. Now, look at the Tanchuma. This is the Medrash. And the Tanchuma, this is the last shot in that, and then we'll see the halacha. So the Medrash says, Otshuva shelazu mimasifta shalu. That's how the Tanchuma. The Tanchuma is always an question-answer from the Masifta, from the yeshiva. So they asked in the yeshiva, Hartana Megillah Nikros Bechad Eser, Shneim Eser, Shlosh Eser, Bi'arba Eser, Chamish Eser, Lo Pachos Lo Yoser. Amar B'Yurei Maseh B'Zman Sha'ashanim Ketikunam B'Yisrael Shuruyan Al Admasan. When the Jews are on their land. Now, the problem with the Rambam is when it says B'Zman Sha'ashanim Ketikunam, what does that have to do with the Aniyim? According to the Rif, what does that have to do, whether you're do Kiddush HaChodesh with the, or not? And B, the other thing is, of course, what does it have to do with the Sakana? The main thing is Malchus. So that's, I don't know whether they had that full girsa or not. Because even the Rambam says, Bizman when they had Yecholis Lichof, etc., he doesn't necessarily just as Bizman Hazeh. But anyway, what does the Tanchuma say? Abu Bizman Hazeh, Hoyle, he doesn't say umistaklin, and he doesn't say umistachnin, that it's sakana. What does he say? Hoyle umistama bekian hain, since they're probably bekian. It's a whole new shot. Ein kordos alol bismano. All right, the very last line here. Hoyle umistama bekian, not mistaklin, mistama bekian. All right. since they're probably experts, and as people today know how to read the Megillah, or people today know how to read the Torah, so they don't have a Yom HaKanisa, and they don't have to go into the cities to hear it. Because nowadays, in the old days, they were Amoratzim. But once the Jews went into Galus, they had to learn how to take care of themselves. When they had Eretz Yisrael and they had the Beis Hamikdash, that's why they made the Siddur. Not everybody knew how to daven, not everybody. Now that we're in Galus, we don't have the Beis Hamikdash, so everybody has shuls. We all daven. There's a certain amount of higher education that actually exists now that didn't exist then. So this is what the Tanchum is saying. It doesn't apply anymore because there's no reason to depend upon a B'nai Ha'ir to read it for B'nai Kfar, because the whole purpose of the Takana was that they were Amoratzim. Nowadays, in almost every city, somebody knows how to read the Megillah. It's a very rare instance that you're going to be sitting in a city that there isn't a single person who could read the Megillah. So that's the way the Tanchuma learns. All right. But the bottom line is, regardless, Pesach, making the cheshbon for Pesach, whether it's based upon, the Sakon of the Goyim, the bottom line is we don't read it early today, period. So let's see the way the halach is brought down, show you the Aruch HaShulchan and the Shulchan Aruch.
You on the next number?
The next page. Yeah. So he says, "V'kivan she'tamhu mishum yom ha'knisa l'chein kashein derech ha'kfarim l'kanes la'ir bebeis behei ein kornosala bizmana." That's Aruch HaShulchan is passing like that. Rabbi Yehuda says in the next Mishnah. V'zeh ha'kol bizman sha'yisol shruyin al admasim v'yishanim kitikunim v'hashluchei beis yotzen lo diya lehem matai purim. All this was when they had the messengers going out and telling you when Purim was. When Pesach was. Masai Pesach. The Jews are spread all over the place. They know 30 days from Purim is Pesach. Afilu b'kfarim ela bizmanim ubatla lehach de kriya lifnei azman. There's no din of kriya lifnei azman on the Yom HaKanisa. Ela rov ha'olam b'yodal and mukafim b'tesvav. All right, now he says, hamafresh b'yam. If somebody goes on a journey, and this is actually mentioned in the Yerushalmi, and we'll see. So let's see in the Shulchan Aruch. V'hayotze b'shiyara. They're going in a caravan. In other words, they were traveling. And what happens? Lo yelo Megillah b'Purim. Now we really do have a case of Amoratzis. In other words, a guy's traveling, he doesn't know how to read the Megillah. He's going in a situation where he might not even have a Megillah. So Yikro so Yud Gimel, Yud Beis, or Yud Aleph. Shem Zmane Hakfarim, Commotion Aspar. V'Yikra below Bracha, Shezal Rak, Lis Korbi Alma, or Lizecher Bialma. Now, what I told you was, now you have a situation of extenuating circumstances, where even though we paskin, we don't have Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, but now we have a situation where we've got a kula creeping in, that a guy who's going to be traveling, who now is worse off than the person in the kfar. All right, because
we're no longer two cities.
Right, now we're talking about one person in his extenuating circumstances. If, in other words, since Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel are considered a time in which the Megillah could be read, and the Kfarim were basically extenuating circumstances, so now maybe we can apply it to this extenuating circumstances, and he could read it earlier, but not with a bracha. Why? Because it's not what the takana was. Now, we'll see later. I'm showing you the Yerushalmi later.
Get credit for reading it?
Well, that's what we're going to see. So let's finish up and we'll see. He'll get some credit. It's a zeicher. He gets something. There is a zeicher here. There's something here. The thing is that there are two ways of understanding the takana of reading it earlier. One is, we say that kulu anshe ha'knesses gadola tiknu, the anshe knesses gadola were masake. What were they masake? Were they masake? The 11th, 12th, and 13th can be read under extenuating circumstances. We're going to give you a leeway of 3 days under extenuating circumstances. And then the Chazal later came and said Kfarim is extenuating circumstances. Or did the Anshe HaKnesses HaGadola say, we understand the Kfarim are, not able to read it, and therefore we're going to allow the Kfarim to read. So, in other words, it was for the Anshe, Knesset HaGadola actually made it for the Kfarim. So if that's true, then somebody going in the Yam could not necessarily read it early. That's not part of the takana. But if the takana was that we're going to give a leeway of 3 days under extenuating circumstances, then you may be able to apply it to other extenuating circumstances. However, nowadays, we said it doesn't apply. So that would be the shaila. You shouldn't be able to make the bracha because theoretically it doesn't apply anymore. But it's not a halacha that those days aren't days of Kriyas HaMegillah. It's only because people might mistake them or people might, count pay, etc. So, but they didn't take away the validity necessarily of those days being additional days that the Chachamim had given their okay to under extenuating circumstances. But since the custom is not to read it anymore on those days, they can't make a bracha. Now, this is what he's saying. So look at what he says. However, if they read it early, the halach is that when the Kfarim read it early, they had to read it, according to many, with the minyan. They had to have 10 people there. So this guy traveling might have to have 10. He shouldn't be worse than the Kfar. So yesh misha omer shetzorach hasora kedin shelo b'zmana detzorach hasora. That's from Magen Avram.
Have a minion to read it?
You'd have to gather 10 people to read it. Not that they would be Yotze, they wouldn't, but you'd need to have 10 people. Okay. Why? Because a Megillah has to have a form of Pirsumei Nisa. And if you don't have a minion around you, you're not being Mefarsem the Nes. Even though they're not Yotze the Megillah.
So what do you do if you're in the Yama, if you're somewhere?
No, so what you'd do is you'd read it. If you're going to be away on the 14th, so you would read it, let's say on the 12th before you left on your journey, or the 11th before you left on your journey, and get these people together.
You can't read it for yourself by yourself.
So according to this, according to Magen Avram, you have a problem that you'd have to have a minion there. All right. Now, if you're going to read it for yourself, then you might as well read it on the 14th. What's the difference? If you're going to read it yourself, then you should just as well read it on the 14th. What we're talking about, on the 14th, you're not going to be there. You're not going to be around a minion or anything, and you won't have a Megillah. So then you're allowed. But now, notice, this is one opinion. All right, below avin kiben shehi below bracha eno ela kalimud bi'alma. So the Aruch HaShulchan says it's only like limud. You're not even getting the 100% of mitzvah. What you were saying, Sidney. If he's reading it early, he's getting something, but he's really not getting the mitzvah of Mikra Megillah. So he's saying, of course, how could you make a bracha? V'harei eno mitakanis chachamim klal. He's not really being yosei the takanis chachamim. Ulechein yesh omrim de'im efshar lo lahamten ad yomim halalu yochel likra afilu mi rosh chodesh lizikar bi'alma. So once it's just a zikaron, it says a chodesh hazeh, this month was switched from a bad month to a good month. So it's actually Rishalmi that you could all go all the way back to Rosh Chodesh. So that's what he's saying. You could even go back to Rosh Chodesh because basically you're getting a kiyum of a zechira. What I think, I would it's just throwing it out. I don't know. I have no proof or anything. But what I would say is that Mikra Megillah, besides a Pirsumei Nisa, is also a din of Mechias Amalek, of Zechiras Amalek. And there's an Inyan to remember Amalek before. So you'd have part of the mitzvah. You'd have at least the mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek, which you may be able to do earlier, just like we do Shabbos before.
But the mitzvah is to read the Megillah. The mitzvah is not to say the bracha.
Right, but the point is, if you're Mekayim the mitzvah, you say the bracha. If you don't get the mitzvah, you don't make the bracha. The bracha is on fulfilling the mitzvah. So if I'm reading the Megillah earlier, if I'm fulfilling the mitzvah, I would make the bracha. But if I'm not, that's what he's saying. If you're reading it earlier...
No, I'm saying, what if you're on the 14th, you're alone, you're on the sea?
Oh, it doesn't. If you're alone, you're still getting the mitzvah, because on the 14th, everybody is reading it. So even if you read it by yourself, you're Yotzei.
Okay.
On the 14th. The 14th, the whole world is Yotzei. You don't need a minyan. You get a bigger mitzvah and a minyan, but you don't need the minyan on the 14th. Okay. Because it's considered Pirsumei Nisa, because the whole city, everybody, all Jews everywhere. But if you're reading it early and you don't have the minyan, then you don't have Pirsumei Nisa, because there aren't other people reading it. You're not part of a group that's reading it. So that's what he's saying, though. You can't do the mitzvah. So that's what he's saying. He's saying this earlier reading, if you read it early, it's not a mitzvah. Then the 14th, you land on shore. You better get to shul and read it with a bracha because you really didn't get the mitzvah earlier. All you're getting is a zechira bi'alma. It's just stam. You're getting some form of a mitzvah because otherwise, why would you read it at all? So what I'm thinking is you get some form of zechiras amalek, which is part of the mitzvah Purim, but it's not obviously the whole mitzvah. So lav klumhu dahave shelo bismano v'chein ben ir shahaya b'derech b'yadalin v'haya b'yado megillah v'yachakach tiznamin lo b'tesvav korei so b'tesvav kivin shizman lo mukavim nearly the korei below bracha. He says not only that, he said if a guy was traveling on the 14th and then landed in a city with a wall on the 15th, he should, again, of course, he reads it, but without a bracha, because he's not yotzi on the 15th, even though he was ba'onis, he wasn't around then. Now, look at the Shulchan Aruch. And first biyam, the one who goes out on the sea, yotze b'shiara, or he goes in a caravan, ve'enu motze Megillah laholichimo, he can't take the Megillah with him. Yikra'anu b'yud gimel, yud beis, b'yachades, or the 11, 12, 13 below bracha. V'imi ifshar lahamtin ad yamam ha'elu yesh omrim shekoros afilu mitchilas hachodesh. Haga v'haki nahug. This Rama says this is a minhag. Miu is nami lo achar kach Megillah. Chozer v'koros b'yom yud daled afilu koro techila b'yom yud gimel mikol makom koros shelo bismano. It's still shelo bismano. Even yud gimel. What's the chiddush? Because yud gimel's man kila lakol, which you could say the miracle actually happened on Yud Gimel because that's when they beat their enemy. You're still not Yotze on Yud Gimel. It's not part of the Takanas Chachamim. Now, the only thing is, the Shulchan Aruch says that Ben Ir Shalach B'Sfina O B'Derech Lo Yabi Yado Megillah V'Yachar Kach Tiznamin Lo B'Tesvav Koros O B'Tesvav. The implication is even with the bracha. Look at the Mishnah Berurah, and then we'll do one more thing. So Yikra b'Yud Gimel. You know what? The Hanukkah stuff we'll do next week. It'll still be Hanukkah next Monday, so we'll do that. Yikrena b'Yud Gimel. All right. But Kobeitz Asara. You have to do it with 10. The Mishnah Berurah says. Till Shlo Bismano boy Yud. All right. Now the only question is, like the Aruch HaShulchan says, why do you need 10 then? If it's only a Zeicher B'Alma, what's the purpose of having 10? All right, be'ayin b'mi'iri to b'di'evet apiyachid yotze be'ayin l'kam and sofsif tafresh sadi b'mishmura. Achein efshar desage b'katanim. You can even have children count. Hoyel v'avi rak mishum pirsumei nisa, because it's only to be mefarsim the nes. So 10 children is also, they're hearing about Purim, it's also pirsumei nisa. Be'ayin baran shemistapek le'inyan b'nei kfarim shemakdiman l'krosa imachuyev l'krosa gam b'layla. The Ran doesn't know, did they farm read it at night or not, or Daiba Kredi Yom, or Pasha, do it in Mafrashei Hayam, V'yotza B'shiara. In other words, they wouldn't read it at night either, obviously. V'divrei Hatur Mash Mektsas, the Tzorkli Koskam B'layla. V'da'o Dahad Hekilu L'bnei Kfaram, Mafrashei Hayam, who Rakli Nikris HaMegillah, Avol Sudas Purim. So even if they're going in a ship and they don't have the Megillah and they've read it early, but the Suda and everything else has to be done on that day. So here you have, in other words, even though we paskin, you don't read early, here we have a situation, extenuating circumstances, where we've kind of let this halacha of Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel that doesn't apply anymore creep into the halacha that under extenuating circumstances will allow it to be read. Even at Kedei Kach, where you might have to have the minyan, like the Kfarim used to have 10 people if they were to read it early.
Why would they read it early if they're going to be in town for the Suda?
Who said they'll be in town? They'll make the Suda on the boat.
Okay.
They don't have a Megillah. The problem is they don't have the Megillah with them. They can't read the Megillah, or they don't know how to read the Megillah. But they'll have the Suda they can make on the boat. You can make the Suda anywhere. Now, the last thing I want to do is one more short thing. And that is the next page that I gave you. I wanted to show you this Terumat Hadeshen. This is another extenuating circumstances that we have. That Now, so we have one situation where you're allowed to read it earlier. You're going, on a trip, and you're not. Now we have another extenuating circumstance, which is different than that one, and that is that a person is having a very tough time with the fast on Tinus Esther, and the question is, can he read it on the 13th? What do we mean by reading it? Not in the morning of the 13th. He's fasting. But the halacha is, we know, Rabbeinu Tam Shita, that there's 2 shkiyas, and after Plag HaMincha, according to Rabbeinu Tam, you can daven Marav, you can daven Kriyat Shema. So after Plag HaMincha is considered night. So is it considered night that, A, you can then stop fasting because it's nighttime, which we could use that kula. Many, want to say, maybe if the person is really not feeling well, but could he read the Megillah earlier after that time? Now, the Terumat Hadeshen, you have he's a Rishon, and people, what I'm going to show you is the interesting thing is that a lot of the halachas in the Shulchan Aruch are based right on the Terumat Hadeshen. The reason it's called, you'll see, the reason it's called the Terumat Hadeshen, there are 354 shilas and shuvas, and that's the gematria for the word deshen, all right? So some say he made up the questions. In other words, the questions weren't actual questions that were asked to him. They were actually, he wanted to bring up the halacha, so he did it as a question and answer. So look at the question. Misha ya anus, at the very beginning time. Right.
I'm sorry, which?
The Terumat Hadeshen, the one that says Terumat Hadeshen.
The one without a date.
I thought we had more than one Terumat Hadeshen.
You do, but it doesn't matter which one you use. They're both the same. The only difference is the back page. All right, the back of one of them
like
is
in the National Review.
Well, no, the back of one of them is a Ron or something, and the back on this one is a Shulchan Aruch. Okay, look at what the Terumat Hadeshen. I'm going to go through it quickly. Misha Anus Katzad. Somebody doesn't feel very well. He's unable to go to shul to hear the Megillah reading. So what is he going to have to do? He can't go to shul, so he's going to have to wait till everybody hears the Megillah, and then they'll send some guy over to his house to read it for him. Now he's going to have to fast. As he can't stand the fasting to begin with, now he's got to fast way longer than everybody else. Is this guy allowed to hear it while it's still daytime? Yud Gimel, Tinus Esther, Olab. Can he read it earlier or not? So look what he says. Tshuva, Yira, it looks to me. He could read it earlier. Liachar Tfilis Arvis, after he davens Marav, Plaga Mincha V'elech. After Plaga Mincha. Plaga Mincha is an hour and a quarter before Shkia Sachama. Before Tzeisach Chachavim. So if you figure when sunset is, you go an hour and a quarter. You have to do Shaus Manios. We did the whole thing. Yeah. We don't have to go through that again. So and that's Rabbeinu Tam Shina. The Hainu Shabra Reva Kodam Alayla. It's an hour and a quarter of Shaus Manios, all right, before night. The pasuk Rabbeinu Tam Breish Brachos the Kaimelon is Manahi Ve'ela Chashiva Laila Linin Kriyat Shema, because Rabbeinu Tam Shita is you can daven Kriyat Shema, and Kriyat Shema says B'shaf B'cha when you go to sleep, which is nighttime. So the Avalgam. Dehikpid Hashem Rachmana Lahed Yazman Shchiva, and there, even though the Torah says going to sleep, and sleep is usually even later at night, still Rabbeinu Tam said Shchiva is just a metaphor for night. It's not the time of going to bed, but because it's considered night. Shchiva is just, Zman Shchiva is a metaphor for night, and after Plaga Mincha, according to Rabbeinu Tam, is considered night. Kol shekain le'nin Kriyas Megillah. If you're going to be Yotzei Kriyat Shema, which is a Chiyuv D'Oraisa, certainly which Megillah, which is a rabbinic, you could be Yotzei. Deleka Kapeda B'midei. Another Ichashina Ha'izimna L'Laila Shetei Kriyasa B'zmana B'yodalit. So if it's considered nighttime, it's the 14th. It's not the 13th anymore. You're into the 14th. Now, if you'll notice, they didn't bring down the other halacha, that the Kfarim read it, extenuating circumstances. What they're saying is this is even better. Here you would make a bracha. You do everything. And I guess you wouldn't even need the minyan because it's already considered the 14th.
What do you do about Shabbos? Shabbos ends earlier?
Shabbos, it doesn't come out on Shabbos anyway, Paul.
No, that's not my point.
Yeah.
If it's nighttime after Plag Mincha,
Right. No.
Shabbos is over.
No, Shabbos over at Seisa Kochavim, not at Plagim, not
No.
Shabbos.
He considers it night.
He considers it night, but it's not Seisa Kochavim.
Okay.
All right, it's not. It's night as far as Mar, but it's not Seisa Kochavim. Right. Right. Rabbeinu Tam says there's two shkiyas. You have to go through the whole Rabbeinu Tam shita. However, what is interesting according to Rabbeinu Tam is that it's not Shabbos until an hour and 1 3/4 of an hour before Seisa Kochavim, because that time is still the Beina Shemashos. I mean, it's still Yom, and then Beina Shemashos is 3/4 of a mil till nighttime. So Shabbos wouldn't begin till about an hour after lich benching, according to Rabbeinu Tam, and that's how the Shulchan Aruch actually paskins. However, the Gra came, and the Gra said that Gonim Shita was that Arshki after sunset is Safek Yom Safek Laila, and you have to go L'chumra, and therefore, you'd be considered Machal Shabbos after Shkia. However, according to the Rabbeinu Tam, you'd still have almost an hour, after candle lighting, that it wouldn't even be Shabbos yet. So but we don't, now after the Gra, and the Shulchan Aruch paskin that way, but after the Gra, everybody went, became much more machmir, that after Shkia, that was it. But look what he says. So, Avagav, to become a Gedol and Pelige, Rabbeinu Tam, even though many Rishonim argued with Rabbeinu Tam, and they hold you're not Yotzei Kriyat Shema until after Tzeisa Kochavim, and not after Plag. Hasam Breish Brachos, at the beginning of Brachos, they argued with them. Ha Kasa b'Mordechai, Hasam b'Shem Rav Yah, Hamina Kavase to Rabbeinu Tam. The minig is to go like Rabbeinu Tam. We daven Marv after Plag Mincha, we're Yotzei, and that's it. But Makri Kedivri Shar Gaonim, Nikra Hedyot, Im Lo Hurgul, B'Shar Prishos. Not only that, people who are Machmir, unless they're normally from the, people who are Machmir on every little iota of halacha, they're considered foolish because everybody agrees that you can be somech on Rabbeinu Tam. Avla ein nira li lahata lamida kashal lahamtin kedaliel. Sheyito ma'at kodem kriya samagila. Now, so you have another thing. Why don't you just allow the guy after Shkia to eat a little bit and wait till the other guy comes? So he said, no, it's better. He said, I don't think you should be eating. It's better v'yantim shuv v'chiyava lo hakore, to wait till the guy comes. Because we say even before Marv, lo yomer anam ochel kima, I'll eat a little bit, v'yeshta kima, and I'll drink a little bit, v'yachar kach ekra kriyat shema v'yespalav. Then I'll say kriyat shema and daven. We're not allowed. Theoretically, when Marv time comes, unless you have a specific time to daven that you go to shul or somebody reminds you, but theoretically you're not allowed to eat because you might end up eating and drinking and then falling asleep, and you won't say Kriyat Shema. So it's better not to eat. So certainly by Megillah you shouldn't eat. So it's better to wait for the guy to come than to eat. So if you have your choice to read it earlier after Plag or to eat, you're better off to read it after Plag, he's saying, than to choose the other option. I'll call over al divrei chacham and chayv misa. The Gemara says it's so machmir, you shouldn't do it. Your chayv misa. It's a metaphoric statement, and it's very where you should be machmir on it. But near the kol shekain leaning increase of Megillah, the chashin and shematech shena, he might fall asleep. Yavatul mekriyasa shari yesh ba shos tovim tova v'gam kriyas chovetfei. In other words, it's more of a kriya. And even though he's got time, but it's more of it's even a greater chova. Shari kol mitzvahs nitches mipanah, because the law is your docha mitzvahs for kriyat shema. It's so chashuv, you shouldn't eat before it. Now look at how the Shulchan Aruch on the next page. Remember I told you how things are based on the Terumat Hadeshen. Misha ya'onis ketzas, exact lashon. Ve'eno yachal leilach l'beis haKnesses v'hotzorach lamtin ad akar sheyikra kol v'kasha lav leishe b'tainis kol kach. He can't, fast so long, but he's got to wait. What does he do? Yachal lishmoa kriyaso mibiyod yom miplaga minchul lamala. Paskins exactly like the Terumat Hadeshen. The source of this is the Terumat Hadeshen. And the Haggah, the Ramah says, he shouldn't eat. before Kriyas HaMegillah, Afilu Tainis Kashalav, even if it's hard for him. So now, a lot of people argue with this and say you shouldn't eat a meal, but maybe you could drink something, eat a little bit, just, we'll see. The Mishnah Berurah is going to say, or maybe I'll let you read it on your own. You'll look at the Mishnah Berurah and you'll see. Just look the last thing at the Be'er Halacha. And you see at the end, he quotes the Terumat Hadeshen. This Tafei Dal, Terumat Hadeshen, some Kuftet. Basically, here you have a situation, you have it many times in the Shulchan Aruch, the law is taken directly. The Terumat Hadeshen was Ashkenaz also. It was taken, from Germany. It was even though the Shulchan Aruch is, but these are halachas that the makar is in the Terumat Hadeshen, and here you have it. Now, just look at the Be'er Halacha. This is from the Mishnah Berurah. Miplaga min chulamala. Makar mi mashe kilu liel b'simin reish lamed gimel legabi tfilas arbis. V'hua din kriyash mashal arbis l'shitas Rabbeinu Tam. Achen kol ze im hu nisar tamed lispalul mincha kodem plag. The Mishnah Berurah adds, you only go like Rabbeinu Tam if you normally daven mincha before plaga mincha. Why? Many shuls don't. I mean, we have a problem. If you daven mincha, if you're making Shabbos early, theoretically you should daven before plaga mincha, because you can't do it both ways. If you go like Rabbeinu Tam, then night starts at plaga mincha, so you can't daven mincha when it's nighttime. You had to daven mincha before. You can't do tarte de sasra. You can't daven mincha after plag, which is, let's say, on a 12-hour day, 3:30, 3:45, whatever, and then daven marav, right away, before the shkia, etc. So this is what he's saying. The Mishnah Berurah is saying this guy who wants to take the kula of hearing the Megillah early has to be somebody who normally davens before the mincha before plaga mincha, because you can only make it lila if it's really was night. All right. Now, we're not machmir, we're machmir some on Shabbos. Like when Shabbos starts early, many are machmir to daven, let's say 12:30, whatever, to make sure that they daven mincha. Nowadays, when Shabbos so early, it doesn't matter. But in the summer, when you're starting before, way before Shkia, then, if it's after plag and you're davening mincha, and then you're davening marv, you have a problem. All right, vuhu a pri chodesh. Kenkas of agra, okamur sham b'seif aleph, kenkas of agra. The pre-Chodesh argues, he doesn't agree. The reason we read the Megillah at night, it says, I cried out to God at night and I wasn't quiet. It uses the terminology Laila, right? By Kriyas Shema it says Bashach B'cha, which means Laila. But here it says Meforish at night. The Megillah has to be read at night. But Laila lo nikra, I'd say, so Kochavim, just like you point out with Shabbos ending. Shabbos doesn't end at Plaga Mincha, it ends when it is astronomically night, when it's considered night. Here, it's not, if it's not night, it's still the 13th. You can't, and that's why the Pri Chodesh argues. He said the halacha cannot be like the Terumat Hadeshen. V'gan linyan Kriyat Shema, Rova Poskim Cholkim al Rabbeinu Tam. He said most Poskim argue with, they might agree by Marav, because Marav is based on Korbanos and Durabanan, but by Kriyat Shema, most people say Kriyat Shema again later. They don't go with Rabbeinu Tam. Achena Beis Yosef, B'Simon Tafresh Peibav, Hetik B'Shem Orchas Chaim, B'Shem Arai, B'Nagu Likros, Ketzasmi B'Yod Yom, Kedei Lahakil, Ala Noshem, Mi'uvra Shalo Yisana Yoser Midai, Became Matzati Eshkol, etc. Then he goes on, you can finish up yourself, that when we're dealing with people that are fasting and it's difficult, etc., we can be a little bit more makel and, kind of lean towards the Rabbeinu Tam. But the point is, what the Pri Chodesh says and that he brings down is, not everybody agrees with this Rabbeinu Tam. Just because it's night regarding the Korbanos and regarding the davening of Marav does not necessarily mean it's going to be considered night regarding the Mikra Megillah, where it says Laila Meforish. And also, it doesn't necessarily make it into the 14th. It's still the 13th. It isn't Seisa Kol Chavim yet. So it might be halachic night, but astronomically it's not night. The day hasn't...
the fact that the Korbanos...
Look at, if a child was born, let's say, after Plag HaMincha, the bris is not going to be 8 days from the next day. It doesn't like he's born on the next day. It's still going to be from that day. It's still that day, the 13th. So, in other words, that's what his problem is with Rabbeinu Tam. However, the Shulchan Aruch does bring it down, and the others bring it down. So you have what to be somech on if somebody really doesn't feel well, that after Plaga Mincha, they would be able to, if on a 12-hour day after about 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, whatever, they'd be able to hear the Megillah.
That's better than eating.
Well, and then eat.
But that's better than eating.
Right, that better than waiting and then eating. Now he brings down.
Like that.
No, but later no, because we don't do it. They bring down also. Even the Aruch HaShulchan says he never heard of anybody doing that. Look at the very last one is the Aruch HaShulchan also, that he says also that nobody does that.
If you really don't feel well, you can eat. Anyway.
Huh?
If you don't feel well, you can eat anyway.
He's saying also. He says too. All right, he says, "V'dima zelet tfilas arvis." He compares it to arvis from Plaga Mincha. He says it's tamua. It's very weird. The ma'inyan zelazeh. How do you connect them? Hasam tali b'karbanos. Marv is dependent upon karbanos. It doesn't depend upon. Once it was night for karbanos. Avahacha dekriyas alayla lamdin min v'layla v'lo demiyah pshita diatseisa kochavim lo avi layla. Quotes from the pre-Chodesh. V'vadi tamu levad zeh. Dayan eno yom yudalit. It's not the 14th. Umiyamenu lo shamanu mishayasakein. We never heard of such a thing that anybody followed this halacha that read the Megillah earlier, etc. So that's what the Aruch HaShulchan says. So we don't do it. But all I wanted to show you is that you see that in the poskim we have, even though we paskin that it's only the 14th and the 15th, we have extenuating circumstances where the Megillah may be able to be read earlier. One situation is the 13th after Plaga Mincha, and the other is somebody going on a trip, etc., and they won't have a Megillah with them.
That's what everybody holds by.
And that's the final halacha. No, so they hold that you could read it as a zeicher. You get some mitzvah of reading it earlier.
Nobody
But
does it.
huh?
Nobody does it.
You read it without a
Where have you
bracha. How do you know? Did you
where
ever
have you
go
ever heard
on
of
a sea voyage and not have a Megillah? Thank you for watching this shiur. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, just select subscribe at the bottom of the video screen and then hit the bell in order to receive notifications when new shiurim are uploaded. If anyone would like to sponsor one of the shiurim in memory of someone, or for a refuah shlema for somebody, or for a schus for someone, please send me a message or email me at stankran@sbcglobal.net. Thank you.